party was traveling through the country of Morios, meeting with different dukes to convince them to give military aid in the fight against the Empire of Steel. As they arrived in the port city of Docks, Graven explained to the rest of the party that the city was ruled over by Duke Bigglesworth McWorthsbiggle, who was also the head of the country's navy and possessor of truly the dumbest name I ever gave an NPC. The party stumbled upon a military parade commemorating victory in the Great War decades prior. Bigglesworth stood on top of a military float surrounded by soldiers. A man in a top hat stood in the shadows behind him. The Duke was very, very short and needed help to get up on his podium. "I remember the Great War well," Bigglesworth said. "We were victorious. We were powerful, and we brought peace to these lands. Now, as the continent falls into disorder once more, it falls to Morios to put an end to it." "Okay, good sign. That is why I have begun drafting a non-aggression pact with the Empire of Steel. This war will not reach our borders." I hate to sound like Caravander, but I think we might have to kill the Duke. Let's try negotiating first, okay? Did you notice the man stood in the shadows? I think I've seen him before. Where? I'm bad with faces, but I think he's from the Empire. It's possible that he has the Duke under some sort of mind control. The party sent Graven to spy on the Duke. He followed the Duke into a restaurant where he and the Empire man discussed their plans. "And this weapon you've discussed, Admiral, it's similar to the ones used in Braza and Woodwillow? It's part of the same set. If properly fueled, it can destroy any navy." "I'd like to see the other Dukes look down on me when the seas are under my control." "You don't have to worry about them. There are already measures in place to deal with Wench and Epsilon, and I'll deal with Van, Nessus, and Conward after we've awakened the Great Beast." "No more being ordered around. No more disrespect. Tomorrow, when we sail for that island, my destiny begins." The Admiral excused himself from the table. Graven snuck after him. The Admiral stepped out into an alley and pulled out a sending stone. He started sending a message to his allies. Graven drew his sword and stabbed it at the Admiral's back. The blade bounced off without doing any damage. The Admiral slowly turned his head. "You have just made a very foolish mistake." He smacked Graven with his cane, breaking his jaw. Graven responded with a punch. His fingers screamed as they collided with a face as tough as steel. "And you just made another one." The Admiral beat the living shit out of Graven. On his next turn, Graven did the only thing he could do. Bonus action disengage, then dash out of the alley. The Admiral sighed and turned to walk away. "Pussy!" Graven shouted. The Admiral drew a Magitech pistol and shot him in the stomach, knocking him out instantly. He marched towards Graven's body, but before he could reach it, Ars and Vixen grabbed Graven and dragged his body away. The next day, Bigglesworth, the Admiral, and a crew of soldiers set sail for Sharkfin Island, an island off the coast of Morios. The party snuck aboard as the boat was being loaded and hid below deck. Once the boat was close to the island, Ars drew a card from his deck of many, using it to try and predict his fate. He drew a card showing an adventurer, covered in gold and jewels, which gave him a map to a treasure trove. Ars took the card as a sign he would be victorious, pocketed the map, and volunteered to handle the Duke. When the Duke was standing on the deck of his ship, ready to get on a rowboat, Ars climbed up and cast darkness, using his Eldritch Knight abilities. He snuck into the orb of darkness and whispered in Bigglesworth's ear. "This Admiral, he's offered you a beast that can destroy fleets, but it's a lie. He's scamming you." "What are you talking about?" "Come on, a giant rock monster that feeds on human souls? That's just Empire propaganda. He thinks you're dumb and weak because you're short, but he's wrong. You're smart enough to see through his tricks." The Admiral reached into the darkness, grabbed Aros by the tail, and ripped him out. He pointed his gun at Aros. Ars dropped concentration on the darkness. "Are you alright, Duke?" "I am fine. Just some random malcontent attempting to sow seeds of discord. In the Empire, I would execute him without question. But this is your boat. What would you like to see happen?" Hold on. You're a military guy, right? You have honor, probably. How about a duel? Mano a mano, bare-fisted fighting." "Ooh, yes. This is what I would like to happen. The Admiral handed his gun to a soldier. Fine, let's get this over with. The Admiral marched over to Aros. He raised his fist and swung it down on the tiefling. Aros responded with a hellish rebuke. As the black flames surrounded the Admiral, Aros held his palms out and cast burning hands. The fire burned away the Admiral's skin, revealing glass eyes and a metal jaw. He responded with an elbow to the face that hit like a truck. Injured, Aros decided to cheat. He drew his sword and swung it at the Admiral. Unfortunately, he rolled a nat 1. The Admiral caught the blade with his bare hand and snapped it in half. He picked Aros up and slammed him down on his knee, breaking his back before tossing him to the side. The Admiral began to walk away when Hugo reached up from below the floorboards and cast Cure Wounds on Aros. Aros, with single-digit hit points, crawled to his feet. "I didn't hear no bell!" he shouted. "Fight ain't over, motherfucker!" He charged in and rolled a nat 20, slashing across the Admiral's chest. Unfortunately, when you've just gone back up from being KO'd, it doesn't take much to knock you out again. The Admiral laid Aros out with a single punch. Hugo cast Cure Wounds again. Where are you going? Fight's not over? The Admiral drew his gun and shot Aros in the chest 6 times. That put him down for good. Take him to the brig for interrogation and search the ship for any other intruders. Yeah, what he said. So, stepping beyond the fourth wall for a moment, Aros' player had to leave this campaign after this session because he was busy with college. So, effectively, the Admiral beat his ass so hard he became an NPC. It just goes to show you a very important rule for D&D. Don't try to 1v1 the big bad! The party hid below deck. Soldiers tore the ship apart to try and find them, but Hugo cast invisibility on himself, Graven, and Vixen. He, unfortunately, forgot to cast it on Chester, the treasure chest with legs that followed the party around, who they brought with them on the boat for some reason. A lone soldier approached Chester. He opened the lid and Chester bit down on his arms. The soldier opened his mouth to scream, but Graven lunged from the shadows and snapped his neck. Graven decided to hide the body in the only sensible place, inside Chester. The second soldier approached. Graven stared at him, then stabbed him and shoved him in Chester. A third soldier, Vixen and Hugo snuck to the brig, knocked out the guards, and grabbed Aros. They dragged him back to Graven and Chester. Not wanting to carry him for the rest of the session, the party shoved Aros' unconscious body into the chest, something that couldn't conceivably have any consequences. Out a porthole window, Vixen saw that Bigglesworth, the Admiral, and a few soldiers were rowing towards the island. Panicking, Vixen jumped out through the window and swam after them. He apparently had not learned from the last 2 duels what happens when you try to 1v1 the villain. As he approached the rowboat, Vixen shouted, "Help! I'm in the water!" Bigglesworth and the Admiral were so perplexed that they stopped rowing and let him aboard. The Admiral pointed his gun at Vixen. "Who are you?" "I'm an ex-member of the Order of the Zodiac, and I swam here to give you a warning. The Great Beast, it's really dangerous. I mean, it's a good military asset, but using it comes at a great cost." "You think I don't know the cost of the treasure I seek?" "There's more to it than that. If you use this weapon, it'll turn a lot of people against you. There's this group out there who are trying to stop people from using the Great Beast. One of them, this guy Vixen, he killed General Strongarm to stop him from using the Great Eagle." "What is your name?" "My name? Oh, that's a good question. It's Vixen." Vixen freaked out and punched the rowboat, breaking it in half. Everyone fell into the ocean. The Admiral sank like a rock. Bigglesworth started to scream about how he couldn't swim. Vixen reached for him, but as he did, both him and Bigglesworth suddenly popped to the top of the ocean. The Admiral shot out of the water like a cork, landing on top of the waves. He was holding a trident, the key for the Beast of Morios. Waterwalk is an interesting spell. If you cast it on someone underwater, they are propelled rapidly to the surface. My god, I just realized something. That shield we gave to the devils, it was a Great Beast key. Oh, I feel so dumb. The Admiral pointed his trident at Vixen. "So, you're the one who killed Strongarm. Vixen, I presume you come here to assassinate me?" "Actually, we're here to convince Bigglesworth to ally with us." "Well, you're doing a bang-up job of accomplishing that. Unfortunately, your repeated foolish attempts to kill me have drawn my ire." The Admiral grabbed his face and ripped away the bandages and charred fake skin so he could fight without them blocking his sight. With his skin ripped away, Vixen could clearly see his gold skull and red glass eyes. My name is Machina Aurum, Admiral of the Empire of Steel's Navy. I'm going to fucking kill you. Aurum lunged at Vixen, stabbing him with the trident. Vixen jumped back. Aurum stabbed again, but Vixen dodged with patient defense and kicked him in the face. I don't like killing people, but I've already killed one of you. I'm not afraid to kill another. Aurum stabbed the trident into the water, creating a massive wave that swept Vixen off his feet. Aurum raised the trident over his head, preparing to stab it down on Vixen and kill him. Then he tripped. Graven, having swam out after Vixen, held on to the Admiral's foot. Aurum kicked him in the face. From the boat, Hugo shot him in the face with a firebolt. I tire from this inanity. He reached into his hat and pulled out a familiar blue crystal, one he had used many times before. He activated the Time Crystal. Vixen stopped moving. Graven stopped moving. The waves around them stopped moving as time froze in place. Everything froze except for Aurum and Hugo. From the edge of the ship, Hugo watched as the world stood still. He wasn't quite sure what was happening, but it was his turn. He pointed a finger at Aurum and cast Mind Sliver. Aurum hunched over in pain. He aimed his gun at Hugo, then lowered it, deciding that there were more important things to focus on. He turned and sprinted across the ocean to the island. By the time time unfroze, Aurum was already inside. The party watched in horror as the island moved, revealing that it was actually a massive shark. The shark swam away, leaving massive waves in its wake. Waves that tossed Graven, Vixen, and Bigglesworth around. Help! This water is hard and it's beating me to death. Vixen ran for the Duke and rolled athletics to try and grab him. He rolled a 2. Bigglesworth was smacked away by a wave. Right then, Aurum got far enough away that the water walk wore off. Graven, Vixen, and the Duke fell into the water and were rescued by a lifeboat, which brought them back to the boat. Who the hell are you people? As I said, we're here to convince you to ally with Woodwillow in the war. No, go fuck yourself. But he offered me a ship that could destroy any navy, but because of you idiots, he stole it and ran away. Now I'm definitely going to ally with the Empire because they have the weapons. We have weapons. 2 of them. Our Great Eagle and Great Ape versus their Great Shark and Great Tiger. The war isn't one-sided right now. The only thing that's gonna be one-sided is your face after I'm done with you. The party looked at each other, then shrugged. They jumped into the lifeboat and frantically paddled away as Bigglesworth fired at them with his cannons. That night when Hugo went to sleep, he had a dream of... well, friend isn't the right word. He had a dream about Carmel. Hey there, Hugo. How's it going? Not bad. I'm working to save the realm and have potentially solved the life force tech equation. I plan to, instead of using human souls, drain primordial energy from other planes. Fascinating! Although you aren't the first to have that idea. Machina Aurum once looked into the same thing. His research brought him to my forest, where he was incredibly rude to me. How was your fight with him, by the way? Perplexing. He was able to stop time. Yeah, that makes sense. He possesses another shard of your time crystal. He used to have all 3 pieces, but I smashed it and hid the pieces across the continent because he was a jerk. When I saw you in the forest, I decided to put a little trigger on your shard that would contact me if you ever ran into Aurum. Why? So he could give you a warning. Machina Aurum is very, very dangerous. His plans will kill millions. What is he planning? What's the word for that thing? That gap thingy? An asshole? Right, yeah, that. Carmel leaned in close to Hugo. Machina Aurum plans to reach into your butthole and rip it apart. The dream ended as soon as Carmel said that. What?